I don't know if you see it on your side. What? I know they were just walking, but considering all those people were ghosts, I was like, it's kind of interesting that they were like on the ground. And I was like, I don't think that was the purpose of all of that, but yeah, I was like, yeah, that's my husband right now. Yeah. Do they always do something somewhere there? Or it's just the second year. Yeah, that's what the lady text us. Oh no, maybe he's close. That's what I thought. Oh, okay. Oh, so we rent space in the mall. Yeah.
And I saw the better stay coach just minutes ago.
With the city, we're trying to. Because that's a good space for like what? The city. The city took over. They have their meeting. Oh, upstairs in the dance hall. We rent there. We are going to do a spot for yeah. We have to rent it. There you go. Yeah. Oh, I think. Yeah.
Back downstairs.
Oh, really?
Less theater.
Very good. Are they going to do anything or just?
That probably got, that was my favorite. That was, oh my God. That wins. Did not have that. When is that season coming out? That's a great show. It's, yeah, I love that book. The show, the series. It's like good for people, you know.
Okay, here's my gavel. The kids like a gavel of what drove kindergartens came through, and so I brought it over there, and then I forgot to bring it back. So I gotta get my spare. Yeah, I got your cane if I need it, right? Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, being led by Chief Bush.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was just explaining how the Wood Road kindergartners were by on Friday. And I bring my gavel in for those meetings with all the kids because they love banging the gavel, like believe it or not, making a noise or something like that. And then I forgot to bring it back to the meeting tonight. So we're gavelless, so everybody behave, so we don't have to even worry about that fact today, and we'll do the same. Yeah, good point. Welcome to the official first June board meeting of 2024 for the Board of Trustees of Village Ballston Spa. Let's go to the minutes. Can I get a motion that the minutes of the May 28, 2024 meeting be approved?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Vasquez, Trustee Fandesa, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
I need to recuse.
Okay. Yes, yes. Welcome back, by the way. Good to see you back. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you. I thought she was going to wire it. Chief Bush wanted to go early in the meeting. He didn't know he was already on that way in the agenda, I think. So here you are, Chief. He's going to present to us about some exciting news for the police department and to update us on the status of 78 Thompson Street. What is yours, sir? Gotta make sure it turns right on the back there. Yes. You got it?
All right.
You're on.
Okay, so like the mayor said, I'm here to talk about the traffic on X Street. Nothing? Nothing? All right.
Don't give up your day job, okay?
We're gonna start with what it says here with the tech grant. Earlier in the year, we were advised of a grant from Governor Hochul's office involving technical gear for police departments. And kicking and screaming, I said, okay, let's go ahead and apply for this thing. I still rely on this. So the tech stuff is way above my head usually, but I enlisted the assistance of Officer Scott Strait, who is very knowledgeable about these types of things. So he went ahead and applied for the grant. And the grant was actually approved for the Village of Ballston Spa for the total of just over $230,000, which we could do a lot of things with. Some of the things that we're intending on doing with this grant. Well, first of all, the grant is for technology. It's for body cameras. It's for LPRs, which are license plate readers. It's for vehicle laptops, printers, mobile radios, gunshot microphones for the village, if that's what we want to do. Anything that involves tech. Things that it does not approve is anything that involves the use of force. Weapons, tasers, things like that. So some of the things that we applied for in the grant were license plate readers, the little cameras that go on the back of the car, the license plate. They're mostly, I like to think of them as the ultimate tool when we have a missing person or a missing child. One of those alert goes out that somebody's been taken. We can tell right away with a license plate reader if that vehicle, suspect vehicle, is in our area. So it's a great tool. Handheld scanners and radios. We're going to try to incorporate a little bit of that. We received from the Saratoga County Sheriff 18 radios with a value of over $47,000. Just radios they don't use it. They're going to shove them or throw them away. So we received it. So that takes a big chunk of that money, which we intend to use now for technology at the 78 Thompson Street. Another part of that tech grant is going to go towards body cameras. Now, probably within the next 2 years, you can see the body cameras are going to be mandated by the state for all police agencies in New York State. So we're going to get ahead of that curve a little bit, get them going, get them running. And it not only protects the public, it protects the officers. We have complaints against the officers. We can take a look at the body camera and see, well, who's right and who's wrong. Go from there. Before they actually detailed what was and what was not allowed on this tech grant, we had put down for the latest high-tech tasers, which have a recording device on them. So if you would deploy them, it would show a recording of the deployment and anything that takes place after the deployment. So they are still in the grant as far as what we're looking to purchase. That pretty much covers the grant. $236,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it really doesn't go too far. Next thing we're going to talk about real quick is the 78 Thompson Street, which is the new building for the police department. We are, and I think I mentioned this before, but we are so grateful for that. You folks that have been in the police department know my dungeon. We need to get out of my dungeon. This is so awesome, and I thank the board for that. But that's the morale has just been uplifted tremendously just by the fact that we may be going someplace else. So we had an original deadline to be in there by June 1st, and June 1st came and went, and we're not in there. So the mayor and I discussed, what needed to be done yet in order to get us in there. The problem that we're running into is that there's so many moving parts. The state's involved, our technology guys involved. There's so many moving parts, but trying to get them all working together has been, well, my wife can tell you, it's been, I've been pulling my hair out, but I don't have much left, so. But some of the things that have been done, and before I go into the things that have been done, I have to say that the village DPW, the guys have done a tremendous job done. They worked hard, they really. I walked around the building, I said, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, we need to do this, we need to do that, and they did it beyond my expectations. So the DPW did a fantastic job. One of my guys, Mike DiMartino, one of my corporals, who's my first line supervisor, he went down on his own time and did painting and brought his own carpet cleaner down and cleaned the carpets. So a lot of work's been going on down there. And the work that has been going on down there has been tremendous. That being said, we're looking at being in there by the 15th of this month. We have plans with DPW to organize with some county workers to lend us some equipment and some guys this coming Friday to move my police station down from Bass Street to Thompson Street. Hoping that by Friday evening, my officers will be responding from 70 Bass Street. I'm hoping.
Well, first off, thank you, Chief, because I know you've been putting a lot of your own time into, as you said, pulling your hair out with respect to 78 Thompson Street. Also, getting that $230,000 plus grant of just the prospect of body cameras alone. I used to, before I was mayor, think that they were something police hated, but I realized that it's actually something they like because it provides them an extra layer of protection themselves versus a he said, she said type of situation. Having it right there on and having the recording available when there's questions that arise can be their biggest protection out there in the whole field situation. So I know you guys are actually very positive and upbeat about that aspect of it as well. So thank you for that work, and to Scott Straight for his assistance in that as well. Any questions from our board?
Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Sounds like, everything is coming together, and that's great. I understand it. I've run a lot of projects, and it doesn't, it could be a few weeks out, and you're like, how's this ever going to happen? But it'll happen.
I truly believe it's going to happen. And I have my way, it's going to happen.
It's a very compelling guy. Thank you, Chief, for your time. For all you do. One note, before we go into public comment on agenda items only, we're going to have to make a change to number 8 on the consent agenda, motion approving the closure of the Kelly Park Playground for repairs. The dates now will become 6/29, which is the former rain date, will be the actual date due to availability of the project leader, and July 13th, the new rain date on that to avoid the July 4th weekend, obviously. So please keep that in mind. That will be the way number 8 will read to 6/29, rain date 7/13. Having said that, public comment on agenda items only. Everybody's invited at this point in time to raise your hand, either in person or on Zoom. Again, agenda items only for 3 minutes per speaker. So if you're on Zoom and have any questions or thoughts on agenda items, this is the time to raise your hand. Anybody in the building, please feel free at this point to raise your hand to speak. I see a Ray Otten hand right there.
out in 16 Middlebrook Avenue. Wanted to talk about the proposal in there for the Hope for Children. Give a little synopsis of what happened at that event. Nothing but good came out of that event. We had so many people that were positive about it, and the kids just absolutely loved it. They had a good time. They loved seeing their little characters up on the fence there. We now have the characters in the Wiswall Park. I have the stars to show. Putting them in was not easy. And I want to thank the board for allowing that event, and hopefully it will be something that we'll be going forward with. I had a long conversation with Senator Tedesco. He was there for almost 2 hours, and he doesn't usually spend that much time at an event unless it's something that he truly believes in and something that he is 100% behind. Unfortunately, this year we were not able to get the speakers that we wanted to there because they already had commitments. But 3 of the 4 that I was trying to get have already committed for next year. Date dependent, but they really want to be a part of the event. And that includes the parent and aunt of the young lady that was taken up in Monroe last year. They have a podcast that they run, and they want to come, as does the other folks that were involved. I had a lady at my house today from the Center for Family, definitely wants to be involved next year. They did a great job. So again, thanks the board for allowing it, and hopefully the other item agenda, which is the repair of the playground area, will also get passed. It's in desperate need. And we have people that are willing to help. We have the supplies to fix it. We just need the okay to go ahead and do it. And it can be done.
Thank you. Gina.
Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane. Ray forgot to bring this part up, so that's why I raised my hand. 7B says that the display will be in the village park for 2 months. During the special meeting, we're questioned about this display and how long it was going to be up. I responded that it was going to be the summer months, so that would take it till the end of August. I'm not sure if there was just some confusion or misunderstanding, but we would like the display to remain till the end of August. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz?
This one was 89 high. I'm happy to see that, although it's after the fact, the motion to approve this, because I think every group that wants to do something in our park should get approval before. And particularly for displays, because a one-day event always needs approval from the board, and the display, the attractive display, should also get approval. So I support that. Also wanted, I don't know if now's the time to ask, but there's an item on the abstract for $117,450 for the DPW garage, and I was just wondering, is that all going to be covered by insurance?
Yes.
For the repairs?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn. Why don't you step around that camera, Marilyn?
Marilyn Stevenson, 45 West High Street. I noted there are 2 items on the agenda related to code status. If somebody could clarify how the parking and grade code language relates to the assignment given to the zoning advisory committee, which is our assignment was to update the zoning code. If there's a relationship there, someone could explain that.
There's not.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Questions on Woods Hollow. There was a mention of a conservation easement to protect the property. I'm assuming the easement will restrict development of all sorts on the property. So my question is, will the conservation easement language for this use restriction be available as a public document for review by the public, either as a document that comes up at your trustees meeting or something that shows up on the village website? Will the easement be filed and recorded as a deed restriction upon closing of the property and transfer to the town of Milton? Who or what organization will monitor the compliance of that conservation easement on an annual basis in perpetuity? And finally, did the village obtain an appraisal for the property prior to the offer being tendered to the town of Milton? And is that appraisal publicly available for the public's view? Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Anna?
Anna Spangle, 32 Kent Street. Both Ray and Gina forgot to mention that we are looking for volunteers to help with the playground upkeep. You do not have to be skilled. You can come down and paint. You can hand out lunch. You can do just about anything. So I hope everybody in this room and anybody listening would contact me or Ray or Gina or another member and give us your name and address and come and help. If you can come and help for a couple hours or all day, that would be great.
I apologize because I will be in Chicago because of the move date, but if it's a rain date, I will be there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Another thing is, I noticed that the garden club has put up signs in the parks and in the memorial park. Did they get permission for that? That's a question. You don't have to answer that right now, but that's a question. If we have to have permission to put something up in the park or other groups do, why did not the garden club have to have permission? I looked and I didn't see it on any previous agendas. Thank you.
Thank you. See somebody on Zoom. I can't read it from here.
Nathan Moore.
Okay. Nathan, go ahead.
Hi, Nathan Ward, 1 Hyde Boulevard. I'm going to be speaking in regards to the sidewalk reimbursement that you're going to talk about later on in the meeting. Just a question: is the intent of the sidewalk reimbursement program to pay for half of the sidewalk for repairs and installments, or is the reimbursement intended to go up to a cap? And if the intent is to reimburse everyone 50% of their costs, then what is the basis for the cap that you guys proposed last meeting? And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Seeing no hands, last call on Zoom. Believe nobody, and as a result, that will end public comment session number 1. Again, consent agenda has a change on number 8 as noted earlier. Can I get it, or does anybody want to remove any of the 9 items on the consent agenda tonight for separate consideration? Hearing nothing, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda. Trustee Price-Bush.
1 second.
Trustee Fandesa, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Also need to do, I believe, oh no, there they are. Okay, just want to make sure the lifeguards were a separate motion. There they are, number 2. So we're good there. Can I get a motion to approve a renewal with Civic Plus for annual website service at a cost of $3,568.75 and authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement and any related documents?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fandesa,
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
Do we ever bid this out, or it just seems expensive? I know Civic Plus is a good organization, but do we ever cost compare? Or is that the only place that does everything we need?
Jennifer, you're the
It's
expert in this.
been who we've been using since I got here.
Yeah.
So how we got it, I am unfamiliar with.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I get a motion to approve placement of the Hope for Children figurine display in Village Parks for 2 months?
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Baskin?
Second.
Trustee Raymond, discussion.
So do you want to change the date?
Honestly, I want to start by discussing the notion here and some of the mischaracterizations that I've read in different places, including on your official page, Ben. Thank you, appreciate that. Taking Lord's name in vain in a meeting is not a good idea. So this is a village project, much like the Christmas tree placement, much like the pride flag being held or being put up, much like the menorah, much like the Christmas decorations on poles, much like the banners, the reused banners on poles, much like the American flags on poles, and other things as well. Also, much like the website, what gets put on a website, we don't come and get approvals every time for everything, because there's a certain level of giving discretion to departments to make sure placements are done in a respectful manner. And if need to be moved, they get moved ultimately. And if there's a complaint, we bring the complaint to the board as a member of the board or anybody else, and we consider it that time. So if there was a motion for something like this, I would have assumed there would have been a motion to remove something or to just not have a motion at all, because I already would have ascertained that this is something that the village is behind on its own property. So the notion also that the events task force is a third party is untrue as well. It is a part of the executive, as I've explained elsewhere, but I'll do it again here just for comprehensive nature of this. The events task force is basically an arm of the executive. And that's because traditionally the executive is who's in charge of putting on the events that are funded and expected by the board, that aren't taken over by some other group like the parades, by BSBK, et cetera. So, or VFW or the American Legion, I should give them credit for the Memorial Day parade, obviously. So I can't put on an event like that. Our staff can't. We don't have resources or time to do it. And so we get a bunch of volunteers ultimately that establish more or less as a group in their own sense, but they are part of the executive. And they consult with me, with the deputy mayor, and with a liaison at all facets of what they're doing. And, as I said recently, they were the ones that asked me, hey, do we need to have a motion at the last meeting to even have any partial use of Kelly Park for the Hope for Children main event on June 1st? And you heard the discussion back and forth. Attorney Bettner gave the opinion on what we needed to do there. So I just want to make sure it's clear, because I'm irritated to a certain degree that the rhetoric is out there that's untrue, and that sort of misses the entire civics lesson that comes with schooling out there, of the separation of powers, but also the umbrella that the executive has and the certain level of discretion the executive has in situations like these. So that's my thought here. So again, I'm not sure why this motion exists. I'll be abstaining because they're out there, they're causing no harm, and at the appropriate time, they'll be taken down. If you're looking to limit the time they're out there, then perhaps that's the motion to make, but I don't believe that limiting it to 2 months is an appropriate thing.
All right, thanks for your comments. I welcome this debate.
It's
Thanks.
not a debate, man.
Thanks. Well, I have a difference of opinion, so in that sense, but I clearly believe that any this type of use of village property does require village board approval. Basically, if there's something that hasn't been done before, if there's something that requires a new explanation and understanding by the board, and some discussion, then it is quite appropriate for the board to approve. And as part of the civics lesson, when we talk about the different powers, we have the handbook for elected village officials from NICOM, and they quote the law. And I'm just I disagree that the executive has unlimited ability to do things on village property. I do agree if there are, and the way I preface this was if there's something that hasn't been done before, needs some explanation. It is true. If there's something that's been done repeatedly, it's routine, and it's understood what it is, and we've accepted that already previously, that is not a major concern of mine. But if it's something that is new and unknown on village property, I think the board needs to approve. And I'll just read part of a good civics lesson. The duties of the mayor, very quickly: presides at the board meetings, appoints all officers and employees not elected, appoints one of the trustees, serves as deputy mayor, appoints individuals to fill vacancies in both elected and appointed offices, enforce and prosecute all violations of laws, rules, and regulations, supervise the police and other subordinate officers, intervenes in any and all actions where deemed necessary to protect the rights of the village and its inhabitants, serves as an ex officio member of each separate board of commissioners, serves as the village's licensing officer, executes all contracts. When the clerk serves as treasurer, mayor can sign, pay claims. If the treasurer and deputy, I'm abbreviating here because they're not as relevant. If the treasurer and deputy treasurer are absent or unable to sign checks, the mayor may sign checks, investigate all contract claims made against the village. The mayor can perform weddings. The mayor is a budget officer, and mayor also ensures the local code of ethics is distributed, requests the service of outside police, and declares a local state of emergency. So in addition, so what it doesn't say is that that the mayor's position has the ability to manage village property. And that is under the section for Board of Trustees. The general powers of Board of Trustees set forth in Village Law 4412, which provides that in addition to any other powers conferred upon villages, the Board of Trustees of a village shall have management of village property and finances. So in my mind, these kinds of issues should come to the village board. And it's not just about the task force. I was thinking about this with the, in Kelly Park with the basketball and pickleball. We never actually approved that. It's a great idea.
We did in the budget. You budgeted for it.
Well, we should, before that, we should have approved because things were happening there. It's a great idea. It's an idea that predates actually when Mayor Rossi was mayor. Mike Powers and the Park and Tree Board were talking about basketball and pickleball. I'm actually glad that you're moving forward with it. But when I was thinking about it, I was thinking we really should have approved that because it is a major change to village property, like before anything happened on the property. And I remember often thinking, what's going on down there? You know, what is the scope? What's involved? And not really feeling knowledgeable as I might want to be. We did get updates every once in a while, but that's just another example. So it's my opinion that, you know, for example, if this was going to be the same display, what they're doing now, next year, basically the same thing, I'd be okay approving that, saying, yes, if that's the nature of the display on an annual basis, that could be what happens. And, but like with the tree houses or the bird houses, it was very different every year. We should have received approval you know, provider approval before those things went up.
We did, and it was ASCC.
Not-
It wasn't
Not the year with the big piece. And then the other thing, just to talk about the use of the Park and Tree Board, there is some confusion about its role. It is true that in law, they talk about really focus on trees, but it has been used in the past to provide consultation around the use of an improvement of parks from benches. And then last year, you referred Mark Bleck's project, Treehouse Project, to them for review. So there is precedent there, and it's it makes sense that they would look at the ins and outs of some things that are at least unprecedented or a little complicated, to vet them, to provide guidance, and to help think things through from the village perspective. So that's my opinion.
Thank you for your opinion.
And, you know, I think 2 months is long enough, but if people want to go to the end of August, I'm not gonna stand in the way.
You have any thoughts? I
Are
see a light.
you gonna amend the motion then, change the date?
Does someone want to?
Well, I know somebody requested.
Yeah, I mean, someone on the board also want to.
So you,
I'm okay with
Let me talk
moving
about
it longer, or I'm okay keeping it to 2 months, but if people,
Go for this one.
If-
oh, no, it's fine. Are you- I'm
I
sorry.
don't want to cut you off because you actually have the floor.
I mean, I need to volunteer, I'll volunteer. Sure, have to go to the end of August.
okay,
So is that a formal amendment? Because like that
Well,
wasn't really worded
right.
that way.
all right, yeah, I'm fine with that amendment. End of August.
Well, it's your motion.
So we're gonna change the motion to read, to approve placement of the Hope for Children Big Green Display in Village Parks through the end of August.
And I will second that.
Sorry.
What?
Sorry, why wouldn't it be to approve the retention of, since they're already there? Instead
To-
of placement of?
To approve the placement. Well, that when this was,
I understand the whole, it was never approved to begin with, but I
Right.
mean, it's already there, so I think properly it should be
Okay.
retention of.
that's fine. And that's actually a good point, that in my opinion, they should not have been placed there
That's
prior
not what I
to.
said.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That they should not have been placed there prior to board approval. But that's fine. We'll change to retention.
Generally speaking, I think because of the smaller nature, and thank you, I think it's scaled a little bit more to the size of the village. I don't really see a need for this motion at this time. You know, soon after, well, when is Family Fun Day gonna be? Forget.
18th.
August 18th. So some of the bigger events are already done at that point, you know? And we're gonna be moving into the fall season, so I just don't see really a need for that, that portion of it. But even still, each board, I think, has been inconsistent about what they apply or do not apply, as far as what's allowed in parks and not allowed in parks. So, while some may be uncomfortable with it, I think generally it hasn't been abused, and I think it's been positive community stuff, everything from the gingerbread children to, you know, let's make sure we support, you know, the garden club, because they do a lot of great things for our parks too. So, I don't know, I like to have maybe a little bit more open hand on this sort of thing. So I personally, I don't see a need for it at this time.
Yeah, in relation to the garden club signs, if I'd be perfectly comfortable with a motion to suggesting the approval of placement or retention of those signs. And as an example, if they had never done that before, then I would say, yes, definitely, we'd want to see the signs and approve them and where they're placed. And then part of that motion or understanding would be, all right, you're doing the same thing every year. We don't need to do a motion every year. Like, I'm fine with that approach. But you're right, if people are putting signs on public property, at some point, it should just be approved. I thought we were going to have some information on signage for, are there signs going up?
So, yeah,
Are they?
as I explained at the special board meeting, yes, there's
Right.
2 small signs that we wanted.
All right, I thought you said they'd be ready for this meeting, like they're not ready for this meeting.
I think they wanted to clear hurdle number 1 with you,
Well-
with the motion
Well,
was.
part of the, so I want to approve this, but part of the not voting on it at the emergency meeting last week was with the understanding that we'd have the information we needed to approve, to vote on it this week. And part of certainly approving something is knowing what we're approving and what's going in. I understand you don't think an approval is needed for putting anything in the parks, but that is not my opinion. So if there's something going in the parks it needs approval, and it can be a part of this approval for the display if we understood what those signs were. It sounds like they're not going to be a problem whatsoever, but the point being, we should know.
Ben, you're speaking as one member of the Board of Trustees.
Yeah.
Directing a arm of the executive at this point in time, which you should.
Well, again, we disagree because I
You
think
can
that,
disagree all you want.
I think the Board of Trustees has jurisdiction
And
over,
that's fine. It's
over
five
the,
members.
now you're interrupting me,
Ben,
Jack.
it's
You're
five
interrupting
members.
me. You're
It's
interrupting
five
me.
members.
You're interrupting me.
Actually, I was
It's
speaking.
no,
Actually, I was
you
speaking at
interrupted
that
me,
point.
Frank, and you can
No.
replay the tape and look at that.
Ben, I was saying that you were directing inappropriately the executive. You jumped in.
No, Frank, you interrupted me. All right, so we'll just have to disagree on that. Now, the fact is, in my mind, the Board of Trustees is responsible for village property management, and that's not just me. That's the law, and so that's why I have this position.
I would think that had more to do with like the valued assets. You know, I don't think having a stake with like a child figurine on it is damaging assets or anything. So I think it's more, yeah, we have equipment. We have expensive equipment. We will manage that. We have buildings that we're investing in right now. But I mean, literally, we're not having votes on every single thing that's happening on those facilities. We're not telling DPW that you can nail the wall. So there's, to some degree, some discretion with the executive, and all those departments are under the executive. So I think I see similarity, and I think maybe there might be more explanation, but certainly a book like that is just a summary of how these things will play out. You know, it's not going to describe it fully in nature, the Nikon book. So.
Right, no, I agree. And I tried to explain that it is true that board approval is not necessarily for absolutely everything. And if there's something routine and expected and ongoing, then it would not be necessary or appropriate. But if there's something new that has not happened before, that is happening on village property and is unknown and requires some discussion, then village approval, board understanding, and then approval would be appropriate.
You do. Yeah, I was just going to say, if I can, and if you can confirm or deny this, but multiple trustees or multiple board members have been interacting with the task force with respect to display, location, et cetera, along the way. Is that inaccurate?
No, that's accurate. And I was under the impression this was a replacement program for the birdhouse festival. Its replacement was expected that they were going to display it throughout the village.
It's completely, every year,
So
that birdhouse program.
It's a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But it was educational. Kids took part in just, you know, cutting it out, decorating them. It was labeled as a replacement program, so that doesn't mean to me that it's a brand new idea.
Oh, it's completely different than last year. It's completely, the concept, the look, I have no problem with what's happening this year at all in terms of what's happening. But to say that it's a continuation of something that happened before is not accurate in my mind. I would not be able to predict what this display was going to be based on what happened last year in any way.
So I'm kind of in agreement with Ben in regard to this is the same budget as the birdhouse, but it's not the same project. It's a completely different project. That being said, I don't think that this particular project is obtrusive. However, being the first one, and I realize you guys are scrambling for time, so I can understand, you know, try and pull something together. But also typically with the birdhouse, when we were talking about budget, there would be a general concept plan of what was going to be done as part of those budget discussions. And I think that was kind of because everybody was scrambling to try to replace that project. That didn't happen. However, I mean, the board are the stewards of village lands and public lands. The board makes decisions. If that, you know, I understand what Ben said. It's like, well, once it was done once, we don't have to do it. And I'm kind of in agreement again with that particular display. But obviously, Ribbon Cafe is having an annual event that they had last year, but we approve it every year. We approve events every year. And the
That's a-
board is
that's a
required
gathering.
to approve them.
That's a gathering. That's why that's required different. It's an actual gathering.
Again, we're stewards of village lands, the entire board is. So there should be some sort of process.
And a street culture also.
Are we ready to vote?
Well, I think first things first is I don't believe you properly amended according to what Carlos was bringing me. So why
All
don't you
right,
guys?
so the amended motion, I believe, is motion made by trustee Baskin, seconded by trustee Raymond, to approve retention of the Hope for Children figurine display in village parks through the end of August.
I'll second that.
You accept it.
I accept it.
That's it. There you go. Okay. Anybody else, discussion on the amended, motion? Seeing none, we'll go with roll call, obviously, on this one.
Trustee Baskin,
Yes.
trustee Van Denza,
Abstain.
trustee Price Bush, trustee Raymond,
Yes.
Mayor Rossi,
Abstain. It is 2-0 to 3. Abstentions are taken as a negative for purpose vote. Therefore, the motion fails.
That's too bad.
Okay, mayor's announcements. Again, want to thank Assemblywoman Mary Beth Walsh and Senator Jim Tedisco for their work in carrying and honestly writing and amending and helping make sure it was correct. The legislation with respect to the transfer of Woods Hollow from the village to the town of Milton. There's a lot of back and forth. There's a special meeting needed. We missed you on that one, Shawna. Thanks for joining us electronically in that one. But just Abby Burke yeah, she does deserve some singling out. She's Mary Beth Walsh is legislative assistant, and she did a knockout job coordinating it. It was kind of like herding cats at times, I'm not gonna lie, between the municipalities to get things done. And she shepherded that just so well, and it worked in the end. A unanimous vote in the Senate on Thursday night overnight, and a unanimous vote in the Assembly Friday night overnight. I would call that actually Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
As I was driving down to Albany.
I think my text messages were around 6 a.m. from you, from Mary Beth Walsh, et cetera, on that one. So appreciate their work. The next steps, obviously, Governor Hochul still has to sign it. That could happen anytime during the next months. And then we have to work on the final points of the contract, which obviously being a property transaction will be an executive session. Eventually, the contract will become available once the parties reach agreement in that situation. Among some of the terms, the conservation easement specifics will be hammered out in those negotiations. Let's get this specific language. Eventually, it is filed as a deed restriction, et cetera. So it's just like any other easement you would think about there. And it's also monitored by the state because the legislation includes a reversion if they fail to maintain it as greenland, parkland, et cetera. So terms related to that aspect also have to be crafted in case we don't anticipate it, but just to be comprehensive with respect to what the legislation says. So there will be several eyes to ensure that it is being followed appropriately. So some work to be done still, but we're getting there. And that was a huge next step with respect to Woods Hollow. So thank you again to the Assemblywoman and the Senator for their work on that. I want to thank the Events Task Force and all the volunteers and all the groups that came out for their work. Hope for Children was really an enlightening experience. Just to see the education going on and some of the fun, the food and everything else. It was the first time. We didn't necessarily expect a huge crowd, and we got what I would call even more than what I expected in that situation. And to start something from scratch like that and build off that for the next time is going to be a great thing. So thank you for all of your work. And the next phase of it being the Kelly Park Playground work is going to be very important, because whenever I talk to the kindergartners and similar age children, the one part they all talk about is the playground in Kelly Park, without fail. And so making sure that that playground is going to serve the test of time moving forward here is vitally important for that park. So thanks again for that work and the success you made it into in that situation. My mother texted me before the meeting. She wanted to make sure that I congratulated Augie's Restaurant on 20 years across the street. Augie's has tirelessly allowed us to use their parking lot at certain times, and does a lot of good in the area. And celebrating 20 years, we do appreciate that business and their location over there. We watched that fire develop just outside the village lines a number of years ago, and became the beneficiaries in the village of the business relocating here over the years. And they've been a positive business and member of the community for a number of years. So congratulations to Augie on his 20 years there. Finally, Belmont weekend. Very interesting to me watching this play out. And as I stated on Facebook, we may have this for 2 more years. I'm not sold yet that 2026 we will see a return of the Belmont to Belmont, because there's still a large structure standing in Elmont, New York, known as the former Belmont Park home. And they've got a lot of work to do in 2 years to get that thing ready. We know obviously next year the Belmont and Saratoga will be back. Again, I hope to discuss with the BSBPA, doing a little bit of survey activity of the membership to see what the effects were in their eyes compared to a normal second weekend in June per se, to see if there was any uptick, especially in the eateries at night and things like that. See how we can better parlay maybe some direct business benefit into the village businesses. I saw more traffic generally, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was delivering the business increase in the village. Obviously, sales tax is going to be a plus for that 4-day period with the number of people that were here spending money at the track and everything else. It's a 50-50 split in any sales tax derived in the city of Saratoga Springs between the city and the county, which is then distributed. So just to see how this worked, how we can improve next year on it, because while some of the prognostications may be a little too exuberant, I think fairly it went very well and was a very positive experience overall for this area. So let's see how we can do better to quote unquote parlay it into something even bigger and better for the village. Let's see. Let's go to Treasurer's report briefly here. Total amount mortgage tax distribution was down 689,000, 4 million down to 3.3 million in the second payment this past year. That's obviously due to lack of lower amount of activity in transactions for real property in the county. The village received our distribution of $26,586.94 on May 22nd. Obviously, the total number was below expectations. We caught wind of that already from the first payment, and we're hoping to see some upturn begin in the next period in the county. Water meter cards have arrived to our customers. They have the month of June to the residents, owners, etc., to read their meter and either mail back their cards, drop in Dropbox outside Village Hall, or return in person. Great to see so many people come in and drop their cards and get to talk with them about any of their concerns. I try to sit out front as much as I can during these times of year to interact when I'm able to. All meter cards must be returned by June 30th to avoid a non-agreed meter fee of $50. Water bills will be mailed out by August 1st. Village tax bills have arrived in early June with a due date of July 1st. Any tax received after July 1st will incur penalties. Year-end fiscal year 2024, it was just over a week ago when you think about it. We're working with LGSS on closing the fiscal year 2024. Have to wait until most of the invoices have been submitted and paid for June. Once those are in, we'll be submitting budget transfers where needed. Pool operations getting an upgrade this season as we're planning on implementing a cashless system to handle our pool membership fees at the village pool. Residents in the Ballston Spa School District can use a credit or debit card when paying. Hope to continue to accept payments in cash or check, but hope to make this more simple for the residents and staff. A little bit of excitement by the fact that we're going in that direction finally. For 2024 called, and we're responding to the fact that technology exists and we should probably be using it in cases like those. We hope to have this option up and running for the pool season. Pool opens, I believe, the date was next weekend, Father's Day weekend, traditionally that weekend. So thank you to Melissa for that comprehensive update. Let's go to liaison reports. We'll start with Sean on DPW especially.
Okay. All right, loose brush and grass leaf pickup. It's over. So if you have some out there, you can make a call, but you might have to bag them up. And that obviously is for the summer months. And in the fall, when the leaves start to fall, then we go back to pick up. New police station remodel. Pretty closing in, obviously.
Sean, you might want to talk into a mic more directly.
Oh, sorry. I just thought I was loud enough. New police station remodel, except for the paint on the bay floors, they have to finish up. And then they can move in. Opening of the pool should happen this week, I think tomorrow. There's a few issues they have to address. Installation of protective conduit in the Kelly Park security camera wire system. And these have all been done so far. Painted red crosswalks downtown, installed banners for the art committee, and have done some patching and paving from the water dig on Pleasant Street and the catch basin at the garage. Pickleball net foundations and asphalt top coat have been completed. Memorial Park flags and parade prep, they've finished up on that. The to-do list, repair the pool filter tank issues, and they're expected to open 6/11. Paint the police department floor with move-in on Friday. And install a library water fountain. Install the catch basin at Pleasant Street and Melton Ave. Finish that up. They're going to go back through and use the sweeper through the entire village. And then they'll get back to the San Souci well house at some point the next couple of weeks. And they need to hire also one new employee for DPW to replace lost staff. They will also be aiding in the fence installation at the Kelly Park pickleball, and will be installing new street signs in their spare time.
So in other words, they're not doing much. It's kind of an easy month for them. Wow. Just kidding, guys. Just to echo what Chief Bush had said, though. You know, last year we gave them the Front Street project, obviously, to really throw monkey wrenches into their lives. This year we gave them 78 times this year to throw further monkey wrenches in their lives. Just getting ready to, I think, get me basically a shot in firing squad for all this. But we want to thank them for everything they've been doing. As Chief Bush said, they went above and beyond, even minimized the amount of overtime that was necessary in that situation. And we looked at it as it was cheaper to use overtime with DPW staff to do that work. Obviously, not everything could have been done by them necessarily, but they did a grand majority, if not all of it, over there. And thanks to Jeff and the entire staff at DPW for what they did there. And I know when we talked about the prospect of doing the court over as a meeting space in court for the time being, they look at me like, are we really doing that ourselves? I said, we'll really consider all options on that one before we jump into that, but they did great here. volunteers. So thank you to them. Mary?
As you said, the program for Hope went very well, and several dozen children were able to be fingerprinted by the police, and the families were sent home with DNA kits, so hopefully they never have to use them. But it's good to educate them on how to use them should they. The library is hosting a trivia night this Wednesday, June 12th at 7 p.m. to benefit their capital campaign. Donations are $5 per person. You can have teams of 1, 2, or 4 people who can register online, and refreshments will be served. Is it cash winnings?
The winnings for the library trivia event, gift cards, I think, for local businesses.
Ballston area seniors will be holding an election to fill the seat of President Linda Elmer, who recently announced her resignation. So if anyone is interested, who's a member, and if they're interested in running, they should submit a letter of intent and qualifications to Mike Andreadakis by June 13th. And if you would like to become a member of the seniors, contact Barb, and her information is on their website.
I do listen, Linda, in that position.
She's a sweetheart.
Absolutely. I used to appreciate the hug you're giving every time I see her. So, Linda, thanks for your work on the Ballston area seniors for so long. Bernadette.
I have a bit tonight, guys. So I just wanted to give an update from the fire department. In month May, they had 32 emergency calls, which included a structure fire within our fire district, and then there was 6 mutual aid structure fire response requests and 2 motor vehicle accidents. There and other sort of responses that are miscellaneous. There were 350 man hours of emergency response provided by these volunteers to our village and elsewhere. The total response for the year so far has been 183 responses, and then 2,000 man hours. As the mayor had mentioned a couple meetings ago about the Kaleen Drive fire on the 10th, very thankful for our fire department. That was, as everyone knows, that was a bad fire. They were able to contain it, and so it wouldn't spread. Thank you also to Malta Ridge Fire Department for coming to our aid as well. And just to reiterate, the cats were all found, which is really wonderful, but 2 of them were found by our volunteers. So I know that family is very thankful. Just, beyond what they do for the actual fire protection, they also give many hours of training. 200 man hours were completed this month, 2 department drills, and then 2 individual company training drills. And then also there was some training with mutual aid drills, with Round Lake Fire Department. And just to let you know, our fire departments are also doing a lot of outreach to students and other people for fire education. They were involved with the Touch a Truck event at Gordon Creek Elementary, Wood Road Elementary School Career Fair Day. And then also they had conducted a fire prevention education training for RISE staff, and then also the residents at Dominic Hollow Apartment, which is really important because they respond to a lot of calls at those 2 sites. So they're very busy and very grateful for all they do. So that's our fire department.
And thanks to Josh Otten on
Yeah,
his birthday, especially was out there for the Smart Choices program, emceeing that, and for all the different agencies that came out for that. It's always something very serious, and it's good to see the high schoolers that are going to be attending the prom taking it seriously out there. And thanks again to everybody. And Josh gave up his birthday, but I know the biggest gift he could get was knowing that he was making a difference for the youth of the area on their prom night.
With BSBPA, briefly, as the mayor had mentioned, the BSBPA is reaching out to their membership to get some feedback about how Belmont impacted them this weekend. Just with the conversations I've had, it was mixed, so it's hard to tell. So it'll be nice to get more data points, just so we have a slightly better idea of how it impacted all our businesses from retailers and restaurants. So it'd be good to look at that and maybe strategize going forward, how we can make more next year very effective. Lisbeth, I didn't get a chance to chat with you. I hope the movies went really well. Thumbs up from Lisbeth. That's great to hear. And then just for looking ahead, they have a mixer upcoming at Real McCoy on June 13th, starting at 5 until 7. And then the farmer's market starts on Saturday. It's opening day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. You'll probably see me hanging out there way too long. So come enjoy, hopefully sun. I hope we have sun on that day.
What's the next movie, by the way? Now the Secretary is in the bag.
Barbie, and there's a party, right?
Barbie party.
Yes. We're gonna maybe spark.
Ellie, I expect to see you out there.
And just a little bit of news from Arts Committee. I'm sure Ben and I can tag team. He'll know stuff I'm missing. But for those who haven't, hopefully you've seen it when you walked around or drove around the village. There's the new banners, and they knocked it out of the park. It looks great.
Yeah.
It really, I think, does a nice job promoting our community. It's a nice little polish for the season. So want to definitely applaud their efforts. We just sent out the press release for it's called an everyday sketching class. It's water and ink classes. It's a series of 3 classes. June 29th, July 6th, and July 13th. It's from noon to 3 in the public library. It's being conducted by Tevia Huang. Her artwork is wonderful. And then also Maria D'Angelo of Art Lady Studio. But the program is supported by Saratoga Arts Funding, and also from the Village, we provided some funding, but if someone's interested, it's a $60 fee for all 3 classes. And I believe, Jen, I got it to you, so hopefully it goes on the website very soon. There's a link for how to sign up and hopefully go to that class. I think it'll be great.
Ben.
I have nothing to add on the Arts Committee, since I do think the banners look very good, so thank you for that. Park and Tree Board, Caitlin, the chair, sent me an update. Park and Tree Board first wants to thank and congratulate Alex Wade on the completion of the Eagle Scout project. He did an excellent job building and installing 4 benches in Kelly Park, 1 located inside the dog park and the other 3 along the creek. We thank him for his hard work and generous contribution to the village and its residents, and thanks to Park and Tree Board for helping to coordinate that. The Park and Tree Board also wants to announce that we have an active survey up and are seeking feedback on the Wiswall Park Master Plan. You can find a link to the survey on the village website and the Park and Tree Facebook page. Please look over the proposed plan, read the intro, and let us know what you think. Please also note that the 3D renderings are to help one understand the proposed layout of the park. There are many specific design elements that are still up in the air, such as fountain design, sidewalk material, historic markers. The goal is to receive feedback on the proposed layout prior to narrowing down the finer details. We are excited for feedback and appreciate everyone taking the time. The next Park and Tree meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 18th at 7 p.m. and will be held in the downstairs library. So everyone listening to this, if you haven't done the park survey yet, please fill it out. They're looking for as many people as possible to respond. It's kind of surprising that the 3D renderings that we were waiting on are actually the cause of the confusion. But hopefully, I think Caitlin is trying to explain that online, what they represent and don't represent. So thanks for managing that, Caitlin. And and did we say that there's a QR code in the park as well?
I was just going to say.
Yeah, so there's a sign in the park with a QR code, and you can also access the survey that way.
So to me, one of the best ways to actually do the survey is, and Mother Nature decided to get a little exuberant with knocking it down on us during that storm on Friday and Saturday. We have replaced it. Our DPW staff determined another location that would not be in the way of a VSBPA merchant as well, because that was called to our attention. So thank you. to especially DPW for making that move when they replaced it. And we're also going to fix the contents of it. We're getting some firmer poster board for inside to do better if there's rain, et cetera, so it doesn't crumple. But right now it is back functional, at least in the park. I think the best way to do it is go to the park, take a look at the map, and actually see it right in front of you. See the park right in front of you, and kind of get the perspective of what's currently there versus what's being depicted. And there is the QR code right there to go to the survey. So shoot your phone's camera to the QR code, and you'll be good to go to take the survey. Not too many questions, and we're.
Yeah, and I guess you put on.
And you're interrupting me.
Sorry, go ahead.
But
I just wanted to add something.
We added one question that we kind of took some creative liberty on with respect to just separating out if people are from the Village of Ballston Spa, the towns just outside the village, or none of the above, essentially beyond the towns of Malta, Ballston, and Milton, just to see if we can separate results and determine what people inside the village itself think of the park, what people outside think of the park, type of thing too. So try to get some meaningful numbers.
I think that's a good idea. And I think you said that the survey's open till June 28th.
That is when I was sitting down and realizing we hadn't really put a due date on it, it was an arbitrary date. Thought it was enough time to get to the end of a week.
I think so.
And just before the end of the month. Will we do a hard close on it? Not necessarily, but that'll be the aim date for now.
Yeah, and Caitlin was saying she just wants a good number of people.
Yep.
So we'll see where we are then.
What's your goal for number? Do you know?
I don't think there's a hard number, but the more the better.
We'll
So right now she
certainly,
has about 30 something people who have responded. So we certainly would like to get more than 100. And if we get 200, that'd be great.
Go now. Let's see. Old business. Parking code status. Have a turn.
Thank you. As the board is aware, you all have, I took all the information that you folks gave to me. I incorporated them into the next draft of the code. I received some more information from Bernadette Friday afternoon, and that went into the rest of the board as well. I have not received anything else from anyone else other than Bernadette. So at this point, it's really up to you folks as to what you want to do. You also have with you the documents, the notice of public hearing, the lead agency designations resolution, and the part 1 of the EAF if the board wanted to move forward tonight.
So there are, even within the draft, which is why I thought we were getting another draft before we voted on stuff, is our questions and unanswered issues. And I'm just thinking we should try to finalize a few of those, just minor details before we vote to have a public hearing, just so the final draft is there for people to see.
Well, historically, what we've done, because we know the next meeting is 2 weeks away, we have about, what is it, a week and a day or so to publish what would be the considered law, 5 days. So Tuesday next week would qualify. So it gives us basically 5 business days to collaborate here on any open issues and allow Carla to put in those final changes for the version that would be subject to public hearing. So instead of going through minutia at the meeting right now, why don't we set the public hearing? If there's a reason not to hold the public hearing, we can determine as we get closer to scrap it at that point in time and put out notice on that. And do you want to wait to do any seeker type stuff, lead agency, or do you want to do it now?
No, you would declare lead agency tonight. That's not going to change.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm not that comfortable with this pattern we've created of setting public hearings with the knowledge we're going to change the law that we're voting on. Well, it's varied in significance. You know, so in general, you want to have the law, the draft that's going to be voted on at the public hearing available when we're actually voting on the public hearing. But
odds are we're not going to probably approve it the same night. I foresee probably 2 volleys on public hearing. If I was being honest with you on this one, because it would be the first say on something major like this that the public would get to. So this is kind of why I want to say, let's finish what we're doing, hand it over to the public, say, okay, here you go. We probably will not vote on it on that night. We'll set a second public hearing for the next meeting.
No, you just leave it
Or
open.
leave it open. Well, we change the law.
Then you would have to set a different. public
So that may be the reason to set a second public hearing. But long story short, we try to get this moving so that we know what we're aiming for getting it done, but leaving a lot of options open to make some changes between now and a couple meetings from now ultimately. I like lighting a fire under us from time to time because I hate seeing certain things drag out.
Yeah.
And Sean audibly agrees. I think.
I want to admit I'm deadline driven, so.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I mean, oh, sorry. I don't think my comments were super substantial. I just gave further explanation of my thought. You laughing at me.
Oh, no. I'm just a happy person.
You just had this smirk. I was like, oh.
I'll have what he's having.
What are you on?
Yeah, no, I think at least when I read it, there's just like fiddly things at this point. So I think we definitely can. I feel comfortable moving forward with a public hearing, setting the public hearing, hammering it out. And worst case, if we're not ready, I guess we're not ready.
For instance, I just want to make sure we're treating food trucks correctly because I know that there's at least one business out there that really would like to do one, and making sure that when they park that vehicle for operations food truck, that they have guidelines that they would be able to follow and be legal in the process, that we're not accidentally exempting out something or not exempting them out in the proper manner for food truck purposes, because that's a very 2024 thing, let's face it.
So that's in there now, or you want to?
I think we need to handle it better than what.
what's
So
there?
when I went in to do my edits, I looked at things that were obstructing streets because of size.
Mhm.
Now, a food truck in and of itself is a wide vehicle that probably would not work on that new language. So now we got to go back and look at how do we make sure the food truck operates, where would we suggest they go to do it, or what rules should they be following to do it if they're going to be over wide, but for a purpose of a food truck scenario.
No, it's not in it right now.
What?
It's not in there right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So something like that, we can hammer out over a matter of a few days here to
Okay.
get that specific one. If you have specific one, did you send the email? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, I did.
Okay.
After Bernadette's.
I was, earlier, I sent comments related to being able to park one place and then being able to move.
Oh, I think
Everything has been put
She did
in
address that.
already.
Yeah.
I addressed all comments that everyone had originally were incorporated into what was sent to you all last Friday.
I agreed with your
And
premise there.
then Bernadette submitted other comments, and I haven't had any additional comments since that time.
Yeah, there's a small typo in the in that area, the 192B
That wouldn't be.
Yeah,
3, and
let's
we
fix
can deal with that
That's
later.
easy.
Yeah, there's some that should be crossed out.
Okay, so let's do this. It sounds like there's an interest in setting a public hearing at the next meeting and doing the lead agency resolution. Remember, because these are spontaneous per se motions, you'll have a 90-second discussion on them each. So let's do them in the order you'd like to, which were
Lead agency.
lead agency.
Sorry.
I'll read this or no?
No, the lead agency designation is only because it's a local law needs seeker. And I did confirm with Jason Kemper over at the county that this does not need county referral. I was a little iffy because obviously we're talking about streets that, butt up against the county properties. So sometimes you have to, but in reviewing it, it does not look like we need to go to the county. So there's really no interested agencies other than the 2 towns that we send this to. But in any event, you guys would be the lead agency because it's your law.
I'll read, it's brief. I'll need a motion related to this resolution designating the village of Ballston Spa as lead agency with respect to local law number 3 of 2024. Whereas the village of Ballston Spa is considering the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024, now therefore it is resolved the Board of Trustees shall act as lead agency for this unlisted action under SEQRA, secra, and it is further resolved that the mayor be authorized to sign any and all documents associated with the environmental review regarding the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 for the Village of Ballston Spa, New York, pursuant to Part 617 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fondainza, trustee Price Bush, discussion. At this point, we'll take public comment for a lead agency motion only. Seeing no hands, seeing nothing on Zoom. Any discussion by us? Roll call, please.
Trustee Baskin?
Yes.
Trustee Fondainza?
Yes.
Trustee Chris Bush?
Yes.
Trustee Raymond?
Yes.
Mayor Rossi?
Yes. At this point, can I get a motion setting a public hearing to, can I get a motion setting a public hearing for consideration of the adoption of local law number 3 of 2024 for 7:01 p.m. on June 24th, 2024 at the Village Ballston Spa Board of Trustees regular meeting at that time.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Fondainza,
Second.
trustee Raymond, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Would you want the 90-second?
I try to. Before I accept the vote, 90-second public comment. Anybody? None. None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries officially now. Thank you for that. Freight code, just an update.
I want to thank the board for getting me the comments. I think I just need comments from you, Sean. I understand what's going
He
on.
loves a break.
So once I get those, I can incorporate everything in. There's not a lot. There was just a couple of questions. So the goal is, as I indicated in email earlier today, the goal is to get you the full revised code for Friday. So that the meeting on the 24th, if all is good, you can set the public hearing for that code to be at the July 8th meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, sidewalk curb reimbursement. So there's plenty of back and forth between us over the last couple of weeks with respect to this, and just trying to figure out what the maximum should be, and Ben gave this idea on what sidewalk maximum should be. I worked with Jeff to try to figure out with that as a relationship what the maximum for curb should be based on the relative expense of linear foot of sidewalk versus linear foot of curb, and trying to be fair to give as much leeway while making sure we stay budgetarily okay for larger properties. We also had some back and forth about the question of whose responsibility removal of curb stuff and sidewalk stuff during a replacement process, whose responsibility would be, and how to make sure it's only being done in relationship to a replacement of the sidewalk and reinstallation essentially, or of the curb. You may have heard some of the discussion of it at a special meeting the other night, but nonetheless, that was some. But the other thing was, okay, what happens when people come and try to redo a sidewalk again in very short order, the same panel, even though it's fine? Why should we reimburse again the same fine piece of sidewalk that somebody, feels they would just be getting a 50% reimbursement on? That doesn't make sense. Where we have a prioritization we need to start focusing on here for things that just aren't compliant currently. Or what about cases where it's a new or a major reconstruction going on? And wouldn't that be part and parcel of a major construction or reconstruction project that, you factor that in? You should be getting your sidewalk up to compliance and curb up to compliance along with anything else you're doing for a major reconstruction job that's going to be approved by the village, the building inspector, or the planning board. So taking all that in, finally today I kind of grouped it into ended being a 2.5 page, what we didn't just call a schedule, or I didn't just call a schedule in this case, but a policy list and schedule as well. Policies that aren't necessarily comprehensively covered by the current sidewalk code, but are something that we want to make sure are clear moving forward with respect to how to manage this process and make sure that we have the resources available. I didn't get much. Burnett actually did give me feedback that she thought it was a good summation of the concerns. For instance, Ben, I think almost your exact language for the removal stuff to make sure that was clear. But I'm guessing that people didn't get a chance to really read deeply into it. So give me some guidance here if you can.
Yeah, I know we got it like 11:30 today, so I was able to skim it, but I guess I'm hoping not to. It looks good. I have a couple of questions. So some of it reads as like what you would put in a law, and not a schedule. And are we sure that the language here doesn't conflict with whatever's in the law now? For example, like the law doesn't say you cannot remove sidewalk, but we have it in the policy. I guess it's maybe just silent on it, so we could put it in a policy.
Correct.
But that was my question is,
Yeah.
We seem to have this hybrid document now, and I thought we were aiming to two documents. One is the law, and then the other is like the schedule. So that surprised me a little bit to see all this, verbiage, where before it was just like, the numbers. So I have to say, I haven't like digested it in terms of being comfortable voting on it
I
yet.
get that. I just wanted to see if there was thoughts generally, and if we're scrapping it all together, if we're like, oh, this isn't bad, let's just finish it off, I guess.
I guess you made a conscious choice not to put this verbiage in, like to save it for the law, or are you going to put some of this in the law? Or
I would assume, well, there's a footnote at the top about the requirement for new construction or major reconstruction to fix your sidewalks. That I would assume is going to be included in any new zoning law to the degree it's not there currently, and the Zach will be making sure that they're aware of this as well. The feedback I got from Zach Numbers was absolutely, why wouldn't you be doing that in that situation?
So, sorry to just one more thought. So for example, you've always talked about like when we get a grant, we have to change the law to make that possible. Now you're thinking a policy is enough?
For now, generally what's been told to me, and Carla, correct me if I'm wrong, is that grant money is exempted. It's not considered traditional reimbursement. So for now, we'll treat it in a policy to be clear on it. And then later on, when we change the law, once and for all, we can include it in the law to be very clear on it in the code. But from what I understand, that kind of money is not going to be considered toward the 50% in that situation.
Or a gift.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, at least when I read this, I felt like a lot of the discussion points were really just to tie us over until we could finalize that sidewalk law, which at the time we didn't have a lot of agreement on certain points. So yeah, I think it covers some of Ben's concerns, it covers some of my concerns. Just to be clear, record keeping superintendent, that would be Jen, technically.
No, that's Jeff, but obviously since she is is the typist, I guess they call it officially, but she's essentially going to assist in that type of process. If we end up with the TIMCO money, obviously we have to reconsider maybe even getting a full position or a part-time position related to it, and they could be handed over those reins.
I meant Jen with DPW hat. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I should have been clear.
Got multiple hats down there, right? Anybody else? Any thoughts? It's okay. Very same. Okay. So why don't we also try to round this out for final approval at the next meeting? I just felt like we needed to get a real building block here because I saw a lot of just back and forth. I didn't see the structure probably we needed to make sure everybody's going to be good to go and understand. The last thing I want to do is have a controversy where somebody comes to us saying, I deserve a reimbursement, where I kind of like, we don't know what to do in those situations. So try to be as comprehensive as possible. I'm sure there will still be some exception cases that we didn't consider, but for now, I feel like we got about 98% of what's going to come at us covered in a situation like this.
Something that would go to the board in those kind of cases.
It could.
I mean, just to spitball here, I mean, I'm assuming we'd be doing a condition assessment if somebody applies.
Yes.
So they say, oh, I got 50 foot of sidewalk that I want to replace, but really only 20 feet actually is in poor condition. And we make that assessment and say, well, we'll reimburse for 20 feet.
The problem with the code in some sense is that it's not saying you can only get reimbursement if you have a fully deteriorated sidewalk situation or a fresh installation. And so, you know, there's a certain amount of depreciation over time that you have to assume that goes into it. Do they deserve 50% a year later? No. Do they deserve 50% 20 years later? Probably, because by that point, it's going to start failing by most Northeast standards with the snow, et cetera, the freeze, the thaw, all that. So that was kind of the balancing act I was trying to perform there. If you think 20 years is too short, I mean, we can change that. But again, at least we've got a structure here that if you want to move a number around, it's a lot easier to move a number in this whole thing now.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that we'd have the superintendent go out, verify that this
Oh, he
sidewalk
can have
actually-
power, yeah.
actually needs to be replaced. You know,
We don't under current code have the ability to tell them, no, don't replace it though. That's the thing. So,
well, no, they can certainly replace it, they just wouldn't get reimbursed for it.
and the way currently in this it would be handled is that we use a depreciation schedule, basically a straight line of 2.5% a year over 20 years, get to 50% again, honoring the fact that there's some deterioration. But then if you hit your maximum in a 10-year rolling period, you wouldn't qualify for anything if you hit the maximum for that property. $4,000 for sidewalk, $3,000 for curb. It's the way it's in there currently based on the back and forth in the last couple of weeks. Unless in 5 years we upped it to $4,500 or something, then okay, you have $500 more space for later on in those 10 years. So again, trying to balance the different possible scenarios where this could be abused and trying to reduce the abuse, but also getting people to want to replace their sidewalks ultimately or keep them up to the right standards. That was the thing that's always a tough balance, I think, in these situations.
Yeah, and again, I made comments.
You need the
during
mic,
week-
Sean.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
sorry.
I made comments during the week that, obviously whatever sidewalk code or plan or schedule we have needs to be integrated into our ADA plan so that we're really helping those people with the worst condition sidewalks first, because that's really what we should be doing. Because
Let's hope for some time money. How's that for that?
well,
That would be very helpful for
so
that.
that would be great.
Yeah.
But again, grants are not guarantees. So I think we should move forward assuming that we won't get a grant. And if we do, that's great.
Appreciate
So-
it. We'll, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. And then just want to point out, Trustee Raymond provided a bunch of figures just today that might change how much we want to cap. We might want to increase that cap potentially because some numbers are higher than you might think.
Yeah, those numbers look, I gotta be honest with you, way out of compared to what we've seen come across for reimbursements. And there is prevailing wage, I think.
Yes,
built
they're
into those.
prevailing wage, yeah. I, basically using the formula I presented in that, I was looking at, for an average 50-foot section, probably 5,000 for the sidewalk and 2,500 for the curb.
The notion, because I know the back and forth.
You know,
Curb, a linear foot of curb, you gotta think of the fact that a linear foot of sidewalk is 5 square
Right.
feet of it.
Right.
That's why sidewalk is actually more than curb. If you're looking at just the same amount of
Right, yeah,
concrete,
yeah.
obviously it's not gonna be, leans to curb because curb installation is a little weird. You have to, as Jeff explained to me, make sure it's being properly secured by the roadway itself, how far you dig in and everything else. So the work related to a curb is where the real cost comes. Because you buy these things pre-formed anyway, in most cases, pre-packed.
There's 3 types.
Yeah.
You can use stone curb, which is obviously manufactured. You can use precast concrete, or you can use cast in place, where you basically put a form in and pour it.
Yeah.
So
Good education we're getting on all this, that's for sure. But the goal here, again, is to make sure that we are getting the conditions set up for better handling of all this and better reimbursement numbers. I know Nathan had sent us something about it, and I think we're trying to embrace as best we can a fair approach, equitable approach on this. Finally, Woods Hollow, I covered some of this earlier, but Ben, I think you wanted to have this on the agenda.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for putting it on the agenda. Basically, I just feel that I just want to share what's been publicly shared already because people still haven't, it hasn't been widely publicized. So I just want to make sure people understand the basic terms of the sale. I'm assuming those basic terms are not changing, that have been worked out. Is that true or not?
Currently, there is an existing contract for the sale. The terms of that contract are not changing, but we do have to discuss, as I indicated in my emails to all of you earlier, the potential, the whole reverter, everything that the legislature required us to do.
Right.
That is separate and apart, so that is discussed separately.
Right, okay, so, but the contract that we have now that has been shared before is public information, it's already to share. So let me just briefly, again, just share what's in it. It's, we're getting Woods Hollow for $435,000 and a number of other things. So we agreed not to log the property. That was very important to Milton, that we do not log, and that was a sacrifice on our part because we could have gotten revenue for that. But we retain a right to an easement for water infrastructure. We agree not to mine the property for any purpose or use water, underground water and mineral rights for any purpose. That also was a concession.
No, just a second, that's not, both parties agreed to that. So
Right.
neither party, when you said we, neither the town nor the village can mine.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I just
sorry.
wanted that to be clear.
Thank you.
Specific
I'm trying
pronoun.
not to take too much time, so
Yeah.
thank you if I abbreviate too much. Yes, sorry. The parties agreed that the deed shall contain mutually acceptable language protecting the property with a conservation easement or a structure restrictive covenant for a nature preserve. Carla, can you just talk a little bit about the timing? Someone asked about the timing for the creation of the easement or conservation easement.
Sure. As you're aware, we were waiting to see what the legislature was going to do. The legislature, it's still not a law yet. So once the governor signs the law, then the actual closing could move forward and take place. So until we heard from the legislature, we, being myself and the attorney for the town, did not create the documents. Last week, we started talking about the specifics of the documents, especially now that they have to include different language because of what the legislature put in the legislation. The conservation easement will be in the deed. So, once the governor signs the law, anytime thereafter, we could close on the property, but we can't do anything until the governor signs it. So once the governor signs, I would say within a month after the governor signs the law, we'll be able to close on the sale of the property. And by close, that means the deed will be there, we'll have a conservation easement, and it'll be recorded as all deeds are. But the conservation easement does run with the land. And so ultimately, the use of the property is not changing at all. And that's something that the village was very, very, it was very important to the village and to the village folks that it maintain a parkland, maintain a conservation easement. What the village did is we worked with the town saying, you're gonna have the conservation easement on the property, which means you can't build on it. You cannot develop on it. The legislature would not have permitted this law to go through if there was any development. So it will, there will be, forest management for proper purposes, maintenance. It will be a passive recreation park. There will be limited unenclosed structures and placements of benches, tables, and signs throughout the property. The easement runs with the land. It's the same exact language that was put in the memorandum of intent that the board created 2 years ago at this point. So with respect to timing, and I'm asking to Marilyn because you raised it, it's within, I would say within a month after the governor decides to sign it, but quite honestly, the governor could sign tomorrow or the governor could sign in January.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's not, I mean, there's a process with 15 days and yada, 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 but it's whenever she wants to.
is the conservation easement subject to a separate vote and seeker or anything else
It's
by
all
the
of it.
board?
No, at this point, as I have explained to the board, but I'll do it for the public, there's nothing more for this board to do. You don't have to approve anything else. You've already approved everything that needs to be done. Seeker is completely done. The resolutions are completely done. The mayor has authority to sign all of the documents. So obviously, you're gonna look at everything, but there's no votes that need to be taken from the board.
Even for the conservation easement, which we haven't seen,
The conservation easement is part of the deed.
but it's not created yet.
Correct, but you gave authority to council to create it. And, the board will
Right.
talk about it, and obviously, like with everything, I'll take everyone's, listen
Right.
to everybody and put it in there, and make sure it does what the contract and the memorandum of intent.
So there's no actual vote on the deed or the conservation easement.
There's no.
Okay. All right, I thought there might be, but thank you for
Why
clarifying.
did you think there might be?
I know, I just thought it was a separate product.
It's
Like,
not a separate product, it's the deed.
Yeah,
It's just, if you were, it's incorporated into the deed, just like if you were selling, with Thompson Street. I don't know if you looked at the deed, it was presented to you, but with the Thompson Street, here's the warranty deed. You didn't vote on the deed, you voted on the closing.
okay. I'm not worried because there have been very strong advocates who have come to meetings from Milton, not village residents, and they are very interested in making sure it stays a park too. So there's lots of strong advocacy to keep it the way it is. What we've heard, the biggest change will probably be, like Carlos mentioned, these unenclosed structures like pavilions. There may be a pavilion or two that goes in perhaps.
And just to be clear, I think that was the desire of the entire board, that it remain a, conserved natural space. So, yeah, I appreciate that we're moving forward. Thank you, Carla, for continuing to work on that.
Yeah. So I'll just finish with the terms. The purchaser agrees to provide snow removal and ice treatment as well as brush and leaf. So that Milton is adding value to this purchase to the village. In addition to the cash they're paying us, they are going to provide snow removal and brush and leaf removal in Colonial Hills for 5 years, starting this past year. So 4 more years. So that's nice. If they perform any logging, and some will say it's best practice to log, that it's due for a logging, but Milton really didn't want any logging. But if they do any logging in the next 5 years, they will split the income with us. So that is good. They have to clear title reports, all that stuff. And then the last thing that's significant is the purchaser, Milton, agrees to establish water supply districts and/or consolidated water district or districts within its boundaries within 4 to 6 months after execution of the contract. This one, I'm a little disappointed. Like, it's sort of like this thing thrown in that has nothing to do with the park. But last year, the idea was to move them along, but I don't know that has affected that.
We are still actually wrangling on the proper boundaries and management of that. So it's not from their lack of diligence on it. It's more or less you have 4 water providers in the town of Milton that we're trying to make sure that everybody's getting what they assume is their land to serve, and B, that rules and guidelines moving forward are clear. So this is not on the town of Milton per se, it's on all the participants, because we are not the only participant in that process
So
right now. So
they've
they
been-
are moving with.
Oh,
yes.
so they're not waiting for the
No,
contract?
No.
As it says.
They've already spent money with Delaware Engineering.
Okay.
They're beginning to try to devise a map plan report, but we're working with Abella to make sure that our interests are protected on that as well. So it is a very complex process when you have 4 water providers serving the same municipality in that situation.
All right.
Go ahead.
And, oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
May I just, on the water supply districts, you indicated that was kind of like an odd duck thing. There's a couple odd duck things in here, like Colonial
True.
Hills, but that was the whole point of the negotiation and the increased price was that not only are they giving us more money, they're adding value to it. That was how we were able to negotiate this to the benefit of the village, and the water supply was really because it's a mess. There's water being supplied without contracts. We don't know where everything is. And so this is going to really fix that problem that was created maybe 30 years ago. So this is going to really fix that problem. So it was a way to work together as a community through the negotiations. And you were at a couple of those negotiations, and Sean was as well, to get that all created at Village.
And yes, and I support this sale. I think it's a good thing to do. It's in the town of Milton anyway, and let them take care of it. And we get some cash to help with our parks. The money will be applied to our parks. There are a couple things that Marilyn, you asked about the appraisal. That was, to me, raised my eyebrows the way that was done. There were actual two numbers provided. The first one was for $610,000 in September of 22. Then in January of 23, we got this letter saying, oh, now the appraisal is $360,000 because they said, oh, we didn't take into account the forever wild nature, but in the original proposal, they actually did. There's a number of pages where they refer to that. So I am glad that they are adding value because I feel like it should get closer to the 610 than the 360. And it does get above that 360. So I'm grateful for that. And then the other piece that that we've discussed is the whole LUMAC buyout contract, which I'll just say I'm not thrilled we're giving them the whole 75 as if they've done the job. I feel like that's more than they should. And but that's where we are now. It was negotiated by Milton, and that's the understanding of what's going to happen. So, I mean, part of that was there's a controversy about the change in date in the contract of the LUMAC contracts, but I don't know if that's had any material effect other than the contract would still be valid through December of 2024 if it hadn't been changed. But overall, I think this is good for the village. And thank you for letting me put it on the agenda and talk about it.
Any new business? Hearing none, public comment on any issue, 3 minutes. This is the time to raise your hand on Zoom if you have a comment to make. We'll take room first, and Marilyn, I saw your hand actually first on this one, so go ahead.
Marilyn Stevenson, 45 West High Street. I'm a member of the Zoning Advisory Committee along with Anna. And the Zoning Advisory Committee wants your input. The Village of Ballston spot is rezoning for the first time in decades. And to make your voice heard, there will be a couple of meetings people should know about. July 18th and August 15th from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Cornell Cooperative Extension Auditorium at 50 West High Street. There will be a very basic zoning 101 informational session. It will be a series of PowerPoint slides to kind of discuss the very basic parts of what zoning is all about and why every community needs it. And the public is invited. October 10th from 7 to 9 p.m. has been designated as the public zoning workshop. The village wants your input. This meeting will be a 2-hour meeting where we meet with our consultant who rolls out the proposal for the change in the village building code. It will be held at the same location, the Cornell Cooperative Extension Auditorium, 50 West High Street, and will be the official meeting to garner feedback from the community about the modernization of our zoning code. So thanking everyone in advance. Jared Icolucci has developed a flyer, which you will see around town and at various businesses, social media sites, and also you can see press releases that have been developed for the print media and possibly TV media too. So we hope to get everybody on the board involved. and get the community mobilized to come out and learn about zoning, because it's been 30+ years since the village has gotten up to speed here. And hopefully everyone will learn about what we need to do in the future, and we're receptive to their comments. Thank you.
Can I ask a question while she's at the mic? Will there be other opportunities for public input, or is that it, that one time?
As far as I understand, the contract allows this one particular brand public comment period through the official public workshop. And public participation is actually the largest part of the contract with the consultant. And it's, to my understanding, there's nothing other than this and the informal feedback that he will get and the formal feedback that he'll get during the October 10th event. Every meeting of the ZAC, which is on the first and third Thursday of each month, is a public meeting. The public is invited to these ZAC committee meetings. We always have a public comment period during that meeting. The only time we don't have a ZAC meeting according to that schedule would be if we have a federal holiday. So we've asked the consultant to meet with the ZAC at one of those meetings each month, and traditionally it has been the second meeting of each month where he appears on Zoom. But that's my understanding.
Okay, no survey.
As far as I know, he has not built that into his contract. It's just this workshop. Now he may have something as he rolls things out during the 2-hour meeting on October 10th, but that's my understanding officially of what he's planning.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anna, would you like to go now? Yeah,
I
well,
believe-
would you go, just so folks can hear you on that? Sorry.
I do believe that during our meetings, though, we did talk about surveys. So whether the consultant is definitely going to do that or not is besides the point. Our group may create some type of a survey to put up posts,
Great.
just so we get more.
That'd be great.
feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, Liz, I think your game is up.
Liz Clemos, 89 Hyde. I was really disappointed that you didn't pass that thing. I'd like to really understand, the task force is an ad hoc, the mayor's ad hoc committee, is that correct? That's the status of it. And that committee, from what I understand, is not in the code, doesn't have any standing. It's an advisory committee to the mayor. Now, the question is, can the mayor delegate his full authority to a group of citizens to do things? Or, you know, I don't understand how this works, particularly since we've got board approved committees such as Park and Tree, and then there's a library board. Can they do whatever they want, you know, on the parks, because they're a village endorsed committee? It's only outsiders who can't, you know, don't need permission. So
Outsiders.
I think we've got to have a policy on this and handle it the same way for the same type of group. And I don't believe that an ad hoc committee should have the ability to do what in board approved committees don't even have the right to do. So it should be the same rules for the same group. So that's my feeling. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks. Anybody else in the room? Great.
What's the
But
That's very charged, a lot of work in there. Yeah, 16 will work out. I took a bit of a beating this past week on Facebook from a number of people.
folks, excuse me.
From a number of people, and I don't mind that. Because it's the way I grew up, and I was always the guy that was, defending and going to bat for somebody. And just to put some people's minds at rest, there was a lot of concern that these figures that we were putting up, screwing into the plastic uprights, were going to fall off and rot away. And so I did a little research. I know Sean's a data guy, and so I looked for some data. And the pine that we used without any treatments whatsoever is normally 5 to 10 years before it rots away. We treated them all in Kelly Park with poly, which now takes their lifespan from 10, 15 to 20 years. So in 20 years, I will make a promise to everybody that I will be the one that takes those down and takes all the screws out. I'll be 91 years old, but hey, I got tools. The screws are they're gonna be dangerous to the kids. Well, they're on the outside of the park. And if the screws are there, yeah, they may get hurt. But again, if you see one of those things rotted on the ground, call me, I'll take it down. We do a lot of things with procedural issues here, and guilty is charged. If I had a list of here's what you have to do for anything to be presented in this village, if I had a list, a checklist that I could go through, I would do that. The committee would do that. I'm sorry, the task force. It would do that, but there is no defined list of what needs to be done and who needs to be talked to. Give me that, I'll present it to our folks, and we'll do it. That's my job as chair, okay? I'll do that, but I don't know what it is. I've always worked all my life, and I've been in management for years and years and years and years. When I had a budget to work with, they would give me the budget and say, here, now go run your store or go run your business. And I didn't have to go back every 10 minutes and say, well, now I'm going to spend $8 on this, and now I'm spending $200 on this. I stayed within the budget at the end of the day. It didn't have to be approved step by step by step.
Got 15 seconds, right?
All right. I just need to have a list so we can do it right. And I agree that there has to be standards. Let's get the standards together. Lastly, happy anniversary to the Dukes. Okay, they've been married for 72 years.
They look great.
And
How many age been?
it's great. 18 years, right? 18 years. 2 more years, they hit the 20 mark.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else inside? Charlene, happy anniversary. Yeah. Carla just pointed something out. She probably hate for saying this, but this is how you chose to spend your anniversary.
We did lots of things over the weekend.
Okay.
All right, this is already on, right?
You got it.
Good. Okay. I don't want to have to come up here tonight, but there's just been this ongoing narrative that's being.
Lower your microphone just toward you a little bit. I just want to make sure. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
See how the camera was treated.
There's just been this narrative being sold that the task force is out there just spending money, doing whatever we want. We're this crazy group of outsiders. And, I don't know where this is coming from. The only thing I can maybe think of is that it's politically motivated to go after us. I'm not quite sure, but the opposite is probably true, right? We're out there doing good for the community. We're out there bettering the community, and we're trying to make a difference. And I'm sorry that offends some people, but instead of maybe being offended, maybe some of those people should get involved and help us out a little bit. So again, the 29th, we could really use your help to clean up that park, because there's all this outrage about what the park's gonna look like. When last time we were there checking it out, it's not in a great state for our children. It looks pretty crappy. It needs to be repaired. The gardens there need to be beautified, right? It's just crappy. And if you guys haven't checked it out, you should probably go and visit it yourself because you'll see that it needs to be fixed. So again, we're part of your community, okay? We're giving our free time. Again, my anniversary, I'd rather not be here, but I knew I needed to be here because this topic was gonna come up. And this is something I'm passionate about because I give so much of my time to it, as well as all of the other amazing people on that task force. So we could use you on the 29th. I hope to see you there since you're so many of you are so concerned with what's going on with us. What time is it, Anna?
8 a.m. to 3 p.m.
8 a.m., right? Saturday morning. Charlene Dubuque, 6 Gaming Drive.
Hey, Charlene.
Good job.
Krista Clucci on Zoom. I believe that my reading is okay here.
You are.
Thank you.
That's good. I can't read that.
My close-up is honestly started failing. Far away is still okay. I don't know why. Krista, go ahead.
Hi, Kristen Icalucci, 24 Chapman Street. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Just wanted to say that really enjoyed the events in the park for the movie event by the BSBPA on Friday. I thought it was a really great event. There was a great turnout. Just wanted to thank everybody that showed up for that event. A lot of different tables selling a lot of different things, including the Friends of the Library selling these great cookies that my kids really enjoyed. There was a table, BICC, that had crafts there. I think the United Methodist Church had crafts too. So we just really appreciated that and all of the people that came together for a great event in the park on Friday. Also just wanted to comment that I think our parks are beautiful. I think the beautification event that happened in Wiswell Park, a lot of volunteers were there. Wanted to thank those folks for planting some, beautiful plants and really making our parks look beautiful. It's great to hear that there's additional, park cleanup. I think Kelly Park is a beautiful park, and I think it's great that we have lots of different groups wanting to improve our parks. I don't think it's crappy at all. I think that's kind of insulting. I do also agree with Ray. I think there should be a policy in place that his group should follow the same rules and regulations and procedures and approvals that all of the other great committees that we have in the village follow. So I think there's a lot of things that we agree about, making sure that we're all playing by the same rules, that we're all doing what we can to come together to improve our village. I agree with Ray. There should be a policy in place for his group so that we're all doing what we can do to follow the rules and beautify our parks. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room?
That's not what they said, yeah.
Anybody would like to go to the microphone and speak for 3 minutes up to, okay, apparently there is.
First off, Gina Morosi, 10 Old Glory Lane, that is not what Ray said. Words just got twisted. He asked for a list of things that we would need to do. That's what he said. Number 2, Family Fun Day. It's been in the planning stages since January. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. Anybody out there that's a vendor that's interested in coming and participating, you can reach out to me or Jen Moskowitz. You're welcome, Jen. Any food vendors, also the same thing. The booths are provided for free. The only thing required is proof of insurance to the village. Stay tuned, much more to come on that. Thanks.
Thank you. Mike.
And we did vote on that? I don't remember. The date?
Mike.
Mike Icalucci, 9 Russell Street. Thank you. Mayor, I would just ask perhaps that you facilitate clarification of Ray's point. What I thought I heard Ray say was he wanted a list of standards and would happily follow it. So if that's the case, that's great. If it's just a list of projects that is desired for the task force, I understand that too. But I think there might be a little bit of confusion as to what
what it is Ray said. So I'm not addressing him because I'm not supposed to. So if you could facilitate clarification, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Anybody else? We also on Zoom. Last call on Zoom. I see Chris Buick's hand going up. We'll give 1 sec, Chris. Just want to say one more time. Last call on Zoom, so make sure you get your hand up there. Come on. Sorry.
Chris Buick, 6 Keeling Drive. A lot of discussion over the events task force, but I really just want to say thank the events task force and members of the village board and members of the village community that showed up for the event. Again, I know there's a lot of back and forth about figures, a lot of back and forth about the park, but I think the whole intention of that activity sort of got lost underneath the radar with all the back and forth. Was really to bring some attention to missing and exploited children. I mean, it wasn't not even a full year since what happened in Monroe State Park. And, you hope to God that one doesn't happen close to your community, but something like that doesn't happen to your own child. So it was good to see the parents come out and be educated, on what's out there, with everything, all the resources and having their children involved. I celebrate 18 years of marriage, but I also celebrate 18 years of state service. And I'd have to say the toughest 3 years I had was with Office of Children and Family Services. I worked at a juvenile detention facility. We worked with a lot of kids that unfortunately were very abused, very exploited, trafficked, and their whole life taken away from them. So again, for a community to come out and bring awareness to that, just within our small community, that is just tremendous, what the task force has done. And again, I saw many members here on the board that showed up to that and even volunteered to help pitch in to improve the park as well. It's a great park. My kids have played there, and enjoyed their childhood there as well. But, it needs some repairs. It needs a little bit of love. It's got a little bit older like me. Things break down. It needs a little bit of upkeep. So again, I just want to thank the board, the task force, and everybody that showed up for that. But let's not forget the ultimate message of what was trying to be done with those figurines. It seems like so much about the figurines, but it was really about our children and our community and the safety of those children. And again, I know when that child went missing, the greater community turned out to wish for their well-being. This village turns out just to make sure cats have been found at a fire, but it's even more impressive to see how people turn out when, one of our own children go missing. So again, that was the whole purpose of that, is to just bring a little bit more awareness to that. So again, I just want to highlight that. All the little bickering about everything else is if one kid steps away from that and it prevents them from being a victim of trafficking, then it was worth it. And this will all be water under the dam or the bridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, nobody in Zoom. You can see other hands here, so I think we're closed on this. Other business, including but not limited to board response, public comment. Put your microphone on if you want to speak. It's on. So.
All right. I just wondering, have we voted on the Family Fun Day, August 18th?
We have not voted on the closure of the street or what would be required to do. So. Yeah. Okay. I think they were finalizing it. They make sure it was moving forward on that actual date and a rain date if necessary. So we look forward to a proposal on that as well. So. Okay.
All right, great. And I just want to say, Ray, I do appreciate your offer to clean up the figurines, because in the past that wasn't made available for the birdhouses. So, but I think it's important. So thanks for doing that.
Okay, thank you. Way down here. I'm as well, and we do have a need for executive session to discuss pending litigation and potential contract related to property. Can I get a motion for going to executive session? Trustee Fondanza. Trustee Raymond, I'm going to accept on this one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I don't believe there will be any action taken by the board in the return to session. Just say the board. And if you want to kill recording on our pause recording, that way you'll save yourself some problems tomorrow. Just for a pause it. Pause it.
Yeah.
Oh, remember this for the next time.
What?
You turned into new meeting.
To be clear, you can't, around.
Returning to session at 11:11 PM. No action to be taken. Can I get a motion that the vouchers be audited and the meeting be adjourned at 11:11 PM?
I'll make the
Trustee
motion.
Fandesa,
I'll second.
trustee Price Bush, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record reflect though that Ben was not present for that vote when it's recorded. We will see you June 24th. Thank you.
Oh, what can I eat at this hour?